Last week, we reported that money has been pouring in from all around the world to help him pay his fine. Giving us some responses to the whole Ai Weiwei situation, we're joined today by LinkAsia's associate producer, Annie Fu. So Annie, what kind of things have people been saying in the social media?
The response has been pretty mixed, Yule. For example, on Google+, where Ai and his team have posted how much money they actually managed to raise from the public, there's obviously a lot of supporters, and they've been calling the government hooligans or gangsters. But on Sina Weibo, a Chinese microblogging site that's similar to Twitter, there's actually a lot of negative comments saying that Ai is just a showman and that he's just doing this all for show because he's actually a very rich artist and he's just trying to increase how much his art can go for. But in response to that, when you look at Twitter, for example, there's a lot of people who say, I know that Ai has a lot of money. User Lonely Bean says he's supporting Ai so that he can slap the Chinese Communist Party. So it's been pretty back and forth, but pretty mixed.
What do you think is accounting for the differences in perspective across these different websites?
I think in reality, that difference really comes down to censorship. For example, Twitter and a lot of the Google domains are blocked in China. And so I think the government doesn't censor those as much because it's already blocked and they figure they don't really have to go after them. But for example, on Sina Weibo, which is very widely used in China, it's also heavily censored. And so there's more chance for negative comments to be there and to stay there. And I think the government probably also has a tendency to try to get a lot of those positive Ai Weiwei comments offline.
Now, in your opinion, in your honest opinion, how many of these comments do you think are authentic and how many do you think are being fabricated by the government?
That's really hard to say, but there are people online who are really critical of Ai's detractors. So for example, one YouTube user, Kobeify, said, I have no problem if you call old Ai a politician or a revolutionary, but he doesn't deserve to be called an artist. And then in response, user Lemon Bullet 1 replied, asking Kobeify if he was part of the 50-cent army that posts pro-government comments and if he was selling his soul for such a small amount of money.
That's harsh.
Yeah. So, I mean, in general, there's a lot of he said, she said going on. The government basically says, Ai is guilty. He has not said that he's not guilty of evading taxes and that he's been doing this for years. But in reality, there's millions of Chinese people who don't file taxes every year. So then that begs the question, why exactly is Ai being targeted?
Pointing him out.
Exactly. Right. And if he is so guilty, why isn't there a lot of coverage of him in the mainstream press if he's so guilty? So.
Got it. Thanks so much, Annie. That was really interesting. Annie Fu is a former CCTV news anchor who was based out of Beijing. We want to hear what you think about the whole Ai Weiwei situation and his latest standoff with the Chinese government. So post your comments on our Facebook page at facebook.com/LinkAsia.
Link TV is the only U.S. network dedicated to global and national news, uncompromising documentaries, and diverse cultural programs. Programs which connect you to the world. To learn more, visit linktv.org.